So today we're going to talk about three different ways that we're looking at digital transformation and power delivery for the utility industry. So the first thing that we're going to start off with is we're going to talk about some 3D laser scans using Autodesk ReCap Pro to be exact. So this is a substation. This is actually a switching station outside of a hydro plant on our system. And this is the 3D point cloud as scanned. And I'm just going to navigate around in here and show you what we're looking at. So these are all XYZ points captured using a 3D laser scan with pictometry built in. And as you can see, just with the laser scan itself, we have a pretty good level of detail. You can certainly make out equipment. It's picking up color, and you can see the density of the scan itself, the points in and of itself. And this is what we call a decimated cloud. The original point cloud that we took had over 800 million points in it. We've reduced the size of this down to somewhere in the range of 200 or 20 something million points. But still, the density of the point cloud is very, very good, and it gives us the ability to do things just with the cloud, like do measurements. And this is a great improvement for our engineers, because previously we just took pictures and then they would have to come back into the system, take the pictures, and then compare it to 2D drawings. But with this point cloud and this point cloud technology in this particular application, we can actually do markups and measurements right here in the 3D scan within ReCap. And we can do things like, measure clearances. So in this case, we're going to take a measurement of this, I think it's a regulator or transformer. You'll have to forgive me, I don't know all the parts and pieces, I'm the tech guy. But what we're trying to do here is we're measuring a clearance between this piece of equipment and that pole. And then those annotations are saved within the model so that we can collaborate and share with other folks. But, the point cloud is one thing. With the scanner, we also get the pictures. So these scanners are really, really great pieces of equipment. Each one of these little bubbles you see here is a different scan location within the model. So as we navigate through here, you see the picture quality is really great. We get a lot of detail when we're scrolling around. And just moving around here, we don't see any real choppiness. The thing I'm going to circle right here in the middle is actually the shadow of the scanner itself. It's really just a little box about the size of a toaster. It sits on top of a tripod, and it captures these 3D or 360 degree panoramic images plus the laser scans itself. Up in the upper right hand corner, we can see the plan view of the whole site that we've scanned, and we can jump in between the bubbles and jump to other scan locations. The little white balls there are targets for targeting and stitching together the scans itself. Once again, you'll notice that we've got our annotations here even in the real view, and when we hover over them, we get the XYZ information from those points. And as we jump around in this scan, we're still just going to pick up all of these scan locations are great. We get all of this detail, and we have different layers within the application itself, so we can jump in between the different points and pieces. These are some previous annotations I put in here to show you some sensor information and an equipment tag, some stuff about the manufacturer and all that. And with the intent, and we'll talk about this later in the video, but the intent is to use these scan points to do other things. So I'm going to save this model real quick, and then I'm going to publish it. And what I'm doing with the publish is I'm publishing this out to the cloud in such a way that I can share this model and share this information with customers who don't have ReCap. So I'm going to publish this and push it out to a cloud drive. And what's happening is I have an application on my desktop called Desktop Connector, Autodesk Desktop Connector, and it's loading stuff into the cloud. And I'm going to go ahead and do a scan to mesh, and I'm going to take this 3D point cloud and I'm going to create a 3D solid using the scan to mesh, and I'm going to save it out there. And I'm going to create an OBJ file and an RCM file, which is an Autodesk ReCap picture file. Now this does cost. It costs about $1 for this 21.0 million points. This is where your cloud credits come in, but one cloud credit is $1. And so I've published this out. It's now on my Autodesk drive. I'm going to navigate over to the folder, and this is in a browser. We're in a web browser at this point. I'm going to click on this ReCap file, and it'll load up. And it loads a little slower in real life. There's some camera magic going on here, but once this is loaded in the browser, you can see that the annotations I made from Recap on the desktop, I can immediately navigate to them here in the browser. And I can't stress this enough. This is in a web browser, so anybody with an iPad or a computer in the field that has a network connection, you can jump around and move and do the same things as if you were sitting at a desktop in the office. Maybe not all of the features, but enough that you could very easily share this information with someone in the field and get annotations and get their markups and their feedback. And that's important because the whole point of this is to collaborate with our field folks and get this information back, use it in such a way that we can have, two-way communication, two-way interaction between our field and our office. So I'm going to jump and show you just some more detail. This is a big gas breaker, and I've got a model of it that I'm going to pull in Inventor later on in the video. But so let's assume, we're going to do some work in this particular area. I'm going to do a markup, and I'm going to play the part of a field person here, and I'm just going to put an annotation, just kind of circle this around. And the cool thing about it is, once again, we're still in a browser, so I'm just annotating and putting information from my browser. And later on, I'm going to show you that this comes back into the model in the office through my Recap because we're sharing in the cloud. So I'm going to go ahead and add a picture and say, hey, we want to replace those things with the stuff in the picture. This can be just any kind of text that we want to describe a condition or something. And then we're going to save it. And I've opened this back up in Recap in the office, and I have this annotation back at my desk where it was added from in the field. And this is really good because now I want to show you some Inventor stuff using Forge, and then we're going to try to tie all this together. So that's one particular model. This is another modeling technology, and this is using Inventor and Autodesk Forge. And so I've got 4 different substation models that I'm going to pull in here. And these first few, I'm just showing you some of the detail we get. These are designed Inventor models. These are not as-built conditions. These are as-designed conditions. So these are substations that we've designed in the field, and these will be constructed or are to be constructed or are otherwise reflective of parts in our library. And as you can see in the Forge viewer here, which is also, once again, this is all web-based, the detail is extraordinary. We can count sheds, we can count bolts. We have just a huge amount of detail available to us in our models, and we like using Inventor because our Inventor models are very highly detailed. I'm just scrolling around here, just looking at different parts and pieces in this particular substation. This is not an actual substation. This is a library rendition, so this would actually not be built, but it reflects all the parts and pieces in our library. This particular model, I'm going to scroll in here, and this is I guess it's the low side regulator bank and some breakers. But I want to click on our substation transformer here, and I'm going to pull up the properties. And I'm doing that to show you that we use Autodesk Vault on the back end inside our office, and we store all of these models in Autodesk Vault. And all of the properties that we annotate these models with come back into our cloud-based, web browser-based thing, and we can use these properties. So we got the Latin long, we have equipment information, we have all of this stuff, including project information that our customers can use to make decisions. So we know what's going on in this substation because we pull this from places like Teams and Stomp and Maximo and Primavera. We pull this all back into the model and use it. And with this as designed model, we also get the same ability to mark up and measure and do certain things with it that we do with the point cloud in the previous example. However, once again, this is as designed versus with the point cloud, it's as built information. So here we're just measuring the length of poles, we're getting lengths of some bus work, underground bus work. But with this model, we also get the ability to start pulling in real-time sensor data. So I have added some sprites and widgets here, and I'm pulling data from SQL Server and Microsoft Azure into this model to show some real-time data that we've gotten from sensor feeds. And so we can show peaks and valleys, and this data's time series, so we can use that information to start looking at condition-based maintenance and try to make maintenance decisions and whatnot. And as we click on these sprites, I can bring up more information and kind of filter into the data for a given sensor. So in this case, we've got the oil temperature. We can read the megawatt readings, and this will be on like a loop. So this simulates a 3-second loop, pulling in data from the sensors. And we can pull up all of this data as individual feeds to filter out some of the noise and just get the data that we're interested in. With this particular type of model, we can also start showing supplemental drawings and drawings related to the model. So this is a 3-line connection plan for this station. Comes in black and white, and this is a viewer in a viewer, right? This is an Autodesk viewer inside an Autodesk Forge viewer, showing the 2D overlaid on top of the 3D sort of. And this is a black and white rendition. We can pull in the layers. We can turn layers on and off. This is a color picture of the control house foundation. And this just, the Forge viewer renders your drawing just like, it's designed in the office. And we could turn on different features. We could share this. We could print out PDFs. We could do shares and collaboration and markups. And we get some of that same stuff that we did with the 3D scan. But now I want to try to combine the two. And this is kind of where the gap is for digital transformation to really get some of the goodness in regards to real-time data. So I'm going to pause the video for just 1 second, and just so you can look here, this is a Navisworks. This is a little bit different application. And I'm going to show you the screen. The white in here is actually also an FBX, which is a 3D model. Remember when we did the scan to mesh, I pulled the mesh into this model and showed it to you. We have the 3D point cloud. I have an InfraWorks base map, and we have some Inventor models that I pulled in, and I'm just going to start the video again. And the white is the mesh, the blue highlighted stuff is the point cloud, and then I'm just going to kind of pick and choose and show you some stuff in here. You'll see the little blue bits that I'm highlighted. These are my Inventor models, so that's a gas breaker that we've pulled in, a gas circuit breaker. We've got a low side, so the picture I took in the very first part said we're going to replace that part with this part. Obviously, that's not something we actually do, but I had that model available. So that's a transformer over there, and then the control house. And then this blue highlighted stuff is our mesh. Now, the mesh requires a little bit of work. I didn't have the time to completely clean it up, so I'm going to turn it off and just show you the point cloud along with the models. So here's our gas circuit breaker, and this is in Navisworks once again. And when I pull in my Inventor models, I still get my properties. So over here on the right, you can see the properties for that. Let me turn off the point cloud here real quick, and just show you the 4 models that I pulled in from Inventor. So here's our circuit breaker and the properties on the right. And all of this information comes in. Now, there's not a lot filled out in these particular models right now, mostly because this comes from our library, and a lot of that stuff is pertinent to a given construction project. But you can see some more of it's filled out on some parts because I'm kind of picking and choosing and scavenging. But there's our low side, and then we got a transformer over here behind. So I'm going to zoom in on the transformer and look around. And you can see the level of detail with our Inventor. This is why we like to use Inventor, because we just get so much detail with these models. But the fact that we can join all this stuff together into one kind of amalgamated model with Navisworks gives us some opportunities where I think in the future, as we continue with our digital transformation efforts, we can take some of this and start wiring it in, pull in our sensor data. I'm going to turn some of our stuff back on. This is our mesh again, and once you can see, it's kind of blobby and a little choppy, but if it's cleaned up, we can get some value out of it. But you can still see that you can use that to kind of pick and choose the Inventor models that make sense here and match them up with your library parts. And really that's where, from a modeling perspective, I think using the point cloud and using the mesh, we can start building out, taking our as-built real-time stuff and pulling in our as-designed library stuff and try to merge this model together so that we have this hybrid where we have the real-time data, we actually have the as-designed data, and we have the as built reflected point cloud and photogrammetry model. And I believe the combination of all these things is where we really want to get with digital transformation, along with sharing and collaborating with this stuff out using browsers and using the cloud to just give all of our users a better overall look and feel and product, and completely close the loop on all of our digital transformation needs. Thank you very much. I hope you found this useful.